Good morning. Welcome to round two for the day. Two Truth for Liberty is he's still bucking. He's now turning it into his anecdotal evidence versus mine about courts recommending procedures or something. I don't know. I don't actually really care about that. I'm giving up on that. You can believe whatever you want to believe with regards to the courts recommending or not recommending procedures. It doesn't really matter to me. I'll let you be the expert, non-lawyer guy. The other issue, though, that he seems desperate for me to opine on, and I have opined on it in the past briefly, is vaccines. He seems to think that vaccines are unconstitutional, or at least the state mandating vaccines is unconstitutional. The problem for him is that it has been litigated on, and it has actually reached the Supreme Court at least once. Twice. I think 3 times. I'm going to say 3 times. There was, I want to say, Jacobson v. Massachusetts, Zuck v. King, and another one that I don't remember. The long and the short of it is, though, that states have police power. And by police power, the Constitution, the courts, don't mean the power to have police. It means the power to regulate things, the power to make rules and laws that aren't based on the Constitution, that don't derive their power from the Constitution, but derive themselves from the inherent power of a state to control what goes on in that state. So it has been adjudicated. The states have the power. Now, he brings up the Fourth Amendment. He believes there is some sort of a Fourth Amendment analysis that can be done with regards to vaccines, and I don't personally see it. In Jacobson v. Massachusetts, it was a 21-year-old, it was an adult, who tried to use the preamble of the Constitution as his defense. It doesn't work. He ended up in a criminal court facing charges over not being vaccinated for smallpox. The court said that was fine. Now, I honestly don't know if any states have it on the books right now that you will go to jail if you're not vaccinated, but there could be a roundabout way that you might end up going to jail. The state requires the child to be vaccinated to go to school. The state requires the child to go to school. Parents don't vaccinate. Parents are in violation of the have to vaccinate to take the child to school. Therefore, they're not able to take the child to school, so they're in violation of the truancy laws or what have you. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. It's certainly not a Fourth Amendment issue. Fourth Amendment is protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. And you're reaching a little far if you think that the government requiring you to get a vaccination is a seizure. I don't believe it is. I've never heard any case law stretching the Fourth Amendment that far. A seizure is where they stop you. It's where they detain you. It's where they take your stuff. It's not where they say, you go over there and get a vaccine, any more than it is a seizure for them to say, you go over there and get a driver's license. You go over there and pay your tax. I don't believe it is a... Now, the federal government, I think, would have a hell of a time doing it, because the federal government can only do the things that what they're authorized to do by the Constitution. The state doesn't have that particular issue, so the state can mandate vaccines. It would be harder for the federal government to do so. They'd have to use the carrot approach. We'll give you funding, Mr. State, if you pass a law that says people have to be vaccinated for X, Y, and Z, or something like that. I believe To Truth for Liberty also brought up the Fifth Amendment due process. Due process is done, so they're not taking anything from you. Their due process is done in that they passed a law saying you had to get a vaccine. Further due process would have to be done if you actually get arrested for failing to vaccinate. Then they would have to go through the due process to find you guilty or to fine you or whatever. But there is no due process implication once they've passed the law. You have to comply with it. It's not a due process concern. As far as vaccinations are concerned, I did notice the last time I brought up vaccinations that a few people would say, hey, this doctor says that vaccinations are bad and harmful. Well, congratulations. That's an appeal to authority, and a very bad one at that, because the overwhelming 99.999% of doctors and researchers and people in the medical field recommend vaccinations. It is very much a minority position to think that vaccinations are harmful or bad. Can someone have a negative reaction to them? Absolutely. But vaccinations have increased life expectancy in the West incredibly. We don't have outbreaks of various diseases like polio and smallpox and things like that like we used to. Although it is coming back because people are refusing to vaccinate, which is terrible. And before somebody launches in about Big Pharma, I think that Big Pharma would actually make more money by not getting everybody vaccinated. Vaccinations are pretty cheap. A lot of these diseases, you get one vaccine, you're done for life. Whereas treating the symptoms, that's big money. That's the cold industry. That's big money right there. So, not only do the vast overwhelming majority of doctors and researchers agree that vaccinations work and are good for you, but studies also show that. And I'm not a doctor, but they're out there. There is a reason why all the doctors are still on board with vaccinations, because that's what the studies show works. And that's what history has shown. There's a reason, again, there's a reason why we don't have outbreaks of a lot of these diseases that used to be so commonplace. There's a huge reason. And a lot of that has to do with vaccines. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.